Hi friends, this is going to be one of a few videos we're going to do on this song, Old Man by Neil Young. This was Neil Young's second most successful song. What's really cool about it is that there's the intended interpretation, which is, why Neil Young wrote the song. And I think the more fun interpretation is the common misinterpretation of how people read into the lyrics something that isn't there. And one thing and it's way more fun. So the thing that makes the song more fun is if you picture Neil Young singing to himself. The song has a lyric, 24 and there's so much more. He actually, I think, released the song when he was 25, but who cares? 24 and there's so much more. It's almost like he's writing from his old young self to his old self. And it becomes interesting because it's like a letter to yourself or a conversation with your older self. And then it gets a little mysterious, Old man, take a look at my life. I'm a lot like you were. These are the opening lyrics. Wouldn't that suggest that he's talking to his older self? Of course, this isn't what the song is. According to Neil Young, when he did the interviews about the song, he said the song was about a caretaker of a ranch that he bought who was an old man, that they had some interesting conversations, and so that's the person in the song. But you can't help but wonder, even despite hearing that interview by Neil Young, whether a part of this is like, well, yeah, but we're all going to become old at some point, and there's always this dialogue with yourself about, well, how are you going to turn out when you're going to be that much older? So I think this is the way more interesting interpretation, is the I guess quote unquote misinterpretation, because people always comment in my videos and they say there's no correct right or wrong. Well, there's something that if the artist says, at least we should consider that strongly. But I think also sometimes the writer says, because they don't want to get too deep in an interview, because this song, I think the more subtle interpretation, the one we have to assume maybe he is having in mind here, is the one where he's singing to himself. Now, another time we're going to do a really deep poetry dive into the song, because this song has really interesting lyrics at times. Like, this song is written a little after Neil Young got divorced, when he was so young already, right? So it's kind of like talking about a love that won't get lost. Love lost such a cost. Give me things that don't get lost, like a coin that won't get tossed. That's kind of cool, right? Like a coin that won't get tossed. Interesting image. And there's more interesting imagery here. So the poetry really deserves its own look. But what I wanted to do is, because this song is so pleasant, I had this idea of like, let's take this song as an inspiration, but write harsh lyrics, like more slice of life lyrics, kind of dialogue to yourself. So let me share that with you now so we can contrast that. And this is going to be quite a departure, right? First, we're looking at what the artist says is not the intended interpretation, but then we're going to riff on the non-intended interpretation. So suspend all disbelief, but let's look at where this goes. What I'm sharing with you is a song I'm writing now, inspired on that Neil Young song. It's about like, well, you're young and you don't know how it's going to be when you get old, but you kind of wonder. And why don't we make it like a harsh song? So this is going to be one of my kind of like more rock songs. Usually my songs are more mellow, pretty. This one is going to be a little bit rebellious, like there's going to be a little of this. I have a song like that actually is my most liked song by people. It's a song I riffed on, like Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, where you go da 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 da, and I kind of based the song around that. I'll have a link to that if you want to check it out. It's actually really cool, and people really like it. It's more up tempo, and so I tried to write this one like that, kind of harsh. And then it starts out. By the way, what I'm showing you is the chords, and what I'm showing you is some spacing in the lines. It's basically kind of how I write a little bit when I have a draft. So don't worry, but what I'll just point to you is the lyrics. Look, a vision I see, 5-year-old me, first time knocked down, innocence scattered on the ground. It's really harsh, right? Like 5-year-old, boom, slapped, or not slapped, whatever. It's not the pleasant Neil Young. He's so young and already so cold, tugging my sleeve. It's almost like the current me is present with the old me, because it's kind of true, right? You carry all your yous at the same time with you through life, right? You kind of accumulate the old yous as you go through life. And I'm not going to give away all the lyrics of the song just because this video is not about that. This video is about Neil Young, but because this song is going to come out soon enough anyway, and so this will be public. It's not a secret. It's just I don't want it to be boring. But then this song goes like 5-year-old. Then then there's a lyric, I see me at 20 fighting for that kid, right? You know, you kind of accumulate the use. And then what's really interesting here, there's a bridge, which is sort of like the turning point of the song towards the end of the song. And it says, I'm looking for a destination, but every turn leads to more, but every turn has more frustration. I want to find an 80-year-old me to ask if life worked out. He's nowhere to be found. And I sink into self-doubt, which I can just drop. I can sink into self-doubt. I think it's actually harsher if I end on he's nowhere to be found. So it's kind of like a rock song. They're usually a little bit like in your face. The lyrics are a little bit not negative, but maybe not afraid of the negativity and the harshness, because that's the style. So that's kind of a contrast that I did to Neil Young, but very different, but sort of with an idea of his song in mind, the misinterpretation of his song in mind. So hopefully that was fun. If you kind of like music with poetry, check out the rest of my songs. I have a bunch. I'll link up to all my original songs so you can check them out. And I write in the style of like poetry to music. 1 + 1 = 3. That's the emphasis of my music. So if you like the style of Neil Young, Leonard Cohen, Bob Dylan, I aspire. I take inspiration from those guys. But anyway, I'd appreciate it if you checked it out. I'll link it up everywhere, and I'll see you in my next video where we're going to look more into the poetry of Neil Young's Old Man.